Those images are very upsetting, and we still don't have answers to a lot of questions as to what happened. But it does make us ask if we are prepared for something like that here, the violence, and the ways to avoid it happening in the first place. It's time for our weekly segment with Colonel Chad Chronister from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. Chad, good morning.
Good morning, Russell.
We have to talk about this with you before we get into other things. When you see those kinds of images, those pictures, I know it makes you hurt, makes your heart hurt. But what kind of training do you teach your younger officers in order to avoid that kind of violence?
And Russell, you said it, our hearts go out to everyone in the city of Charlotte. And I can assure you that every law enforcement agency around the country is working as diligently as possible to ensure mistakes like this don't occur. But there are a couple key components that I think are vital to diminishing the likelihood of something like this happening. One is training. You know, training is such a key component. When you train, it equates to being prepared and making sure your officers are prepared, that you have the most professional product out there on the street. You make sure your officers are getting that racial sensitivity training, you know, that they're getting trained in de-escalation techniques to make sure something like this doesn't happen.
You know, and when these protests, as from what we've known, they start out as peaceful. These are concerned citizens. Most people involved in these protests want them to remain peaceful. Sometimes, though, it gets out of hand. And I guess as you talk about training, in a situation like this, when it does get out of hand, you've got to mitigate it. You have to find a way to de-escalate it, right?
Russell, this is every officer, every agency's biggest nightmare. And you're exactly right. I think that's why you have to be out in the community. You have to be strengthening those community ties, letting the community know that, hey, listen, we're here. We're here as one, and that because of the trust that we build through those relationships, give us the benefit of the doubt that when a mistake occurs, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to make it right.
You know, and that is the subject that we've talked about before here, is establishing trust in a community as early as possible. And we've done segments with you on that before, but you've got something new that I think plays into what we're talking about this, and it's something called #YourSupportMatters.
Russell, tensions are high throughout the country. You have officers that are at this constant heightened state of alert because of all the violence that's been occurring towards law enforcement. And then you have the community who's extremely frustrated about what's been occurring and the mistakes that have been happening. And I understand that. But realize going out and harming another or damaging someone else's property isn't going to fix or repair anything. And there's going to have to be this common ground that everyone comes to. And together, we are a community. You know, we will celebrate the successes, but we also will suffer the consequences of a failure. This perceived divide between law enforcement and the community is just that, a perceived notion. It's a perceived divide. We are in this together. So I know I'm getting off on a side note here, but this is the reason we wanted to come up with a campaign, not a flash in the pan thank you, but something sustainable to let everyone in here in the Tampa Bay community, let them know how much their support, their outpouring of support, what a difference it makes. Getting up in the morning or in the evening, depending on when you go to shift, kissing your loved ones goodbye and heading out to work, not knowing what the shift ahead lies in front of you.
Chad, I know this was, we had to kind of change subjects this morning because of what's going on in Charlotte, and I appreciate you all adapting to it. And I think this was really important this morning to get this info out there. And remember, it's the #YourSupportMatters. Is what your office is doing. So thank you for coming in. It's good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
You too.